Yeah, so you're saying that music, this is a type of code, and it starts out as ink on a page, and then it ends up as sound. So you need a person or a computer. Yeah. You need some kind of instrument in between. So it's not instantaneous. This encoding takes some work. This is a type of code because the ink expresses the sound. You can actually translate between the two. That's a great example. Thank you. You have a number, and that number is sort of representing a person. So this is also an example of a function. Let's think about it on also level. I pick up my phone and I call you. I'm not going to because I have your number, but I'm calling you, right? What happens to the sound? And then I start talking. And then what happens to the information in my voice? So it goes from my brain to my mouth to the phone. Where does it go from the phone? So if I'm talking, you're absolutely right. There's actually two levels of encoding here because I am on the phone. My information has to get translated into something that can then be transmitted on the satellites and the cell phone towers. And that's not the same way. That's not like tongue and teeth information. That's numbers. That's a wavelength. And then from there, it has to get decoded to the person that I'm calling. And it sounds to them like what it started out as. Another example of like a number person correspondence is when you buy something, how do you know how much it costs? How does the machine that the scanner, that the cashier uses know how much it costs? A barcode reader, barcode, right? We're taking all the information about that product that's important to the store, and we're translating it down into like a 10-digit number. There's actually a mathematical process that someone designed to make barcodes because they needed that. So a code is just, what are some others? Language itself is absolutely a code. And the different languages, like when we translate between languages, that's encoding and decoding, depending on which way you look at it. Yeah, language itself is a code. And I would say like language is a code and vice versa. So all of these are great examples. Now, what's the difference between a code and a cipher? We've talked a lot about ciphers. Is one a special case of the other? Are they actually like two totally different things? Do they have some overlap, no overlap? What's the relationship? We gave this definition that a code is just a way of transforming information. And is a cipher a way of transforming information? The difference is in the intention. So a cipher is a code where you're trying to keep things secret. And a code, like the barcode, is not trying to hide the price from me. Right? It's just trying to make it in a way that that a machine can understand it. So you have this thing where like you have the world of all codes. And then inside that, you have a smaller world, which is the world of cipher. And the difference is in how they're used. So a cipher is a code that is intended to keep something secret. And this can be a matter of interpretation. So for instance, when people are first starting out with the idea of cryptography, there's a really easy idea of a cipher that occurs to people, which is that you can just replace the letters with the obvious numbers, right? So you can take A and you can say, okay, A is going to be the first letter, B is going to be the second letter, and Z is going to be the 26th letter. And this actually has a name, it's called A1Z26. This can either be a cipher or a code, depending on, I mean, it's always going to be a code. But the question of whether it's a cipher is whether or not the person is intending for this to keep someone out. So this could be a code or a cipher, depending on intent. Basically, any code automatically becomes a cipher to the people who don't know it already. Like I'm constantly having to look up, like I just learned what this means, FRFR. It's an expression of sincerity, right? If I weren't part of the group, I don't know if I would have figured it out. So when you create it, when you have a code can keep people out automatically because some people know it and some people don't. The question is whether it's intended for that purpose. Like I can't read a barcode, but it's not that the barcode is designed for me not to be able to read it. It's just that, you know, it's intended for something else. Does that make sense? So the difference between a code and a cipher is whether you're intentionally using it